Hi folks, and welcome back to West Yorkshire Retro Gamer. I just thought I'd have a little chat about the current squad depth that Leeds United have and where we might need some reinforcements and maybe anyone that maybe the club might get rid of out of this lot, of which I don't think there'll be many, because I think that squad depth and the quality of your squad depth is massively important right now. So let's go through it. Lucas Perry, Elimile, Caldalo, Alex Cairns, loads of squad depth there for the goalkeeping department. I do have a feeling that Elimile will leave, because I don't think that he's going to want to hang around on the bench. Lucas Perry's obviously been brought in as the number one goalkeeper, and then it's a toss-up between Elimile and Caldalo for the backup. I think at their respective ages, Darlow, unless he really wants to become a number one again elsewhere, I think he'd probably stay as the backup. But I don't see Elimile at the age of about 25 hanging around. He's going to want first team football, so I think Elim may leave. Alex Cairns didn't seem right bothered about not even being close to the first team in terms of the first 11. And to be fair to Alex, he's one of our own and he is a good influence in the dressing room. So I think for me, with the goalkeepers, with Perry coming in, you don't spend £15 million on a goalkeeper and not use him. So for me, I think Perry's come in as number one. I think Meslier will leave. I think Darlow will stay as the main substitute keeper, with Alex Cairns backing them all up in case of injuries or suspensions. At right back, we've currently got Jayden Bogle and Isaac Schmidt, but I'll be totally honest, I think that Isaac Schmidt will be sent out on loan, or he might get bought, but I don't think he gets into the first 11 and you know, I think that the club will look to get a move for Isaac because he will want to play first team football with the next international tournament coming up. He will want to play for Switzerland. He's only going to get into the Swiss squad if he's playing regular games. So for me, I think Isaac probably gets a move elsewhere, and I think the club will attempt to get a new right back to give some competition to Jayden Bogle. It makes sense, and I think there's a couple of free transfers that the club might look at. There's a Japanese one, but he's injured at the minute, and there's an Italian one who I don't believe is injured, but is quite experienced and around that 27, 28-year-old kind of age bracket that the club's been recruiting. And I think that by getting a free transfer, or looking at someone maybe on loan, I think by getting a free transfer, you're freeing up funds for the positions that are going to cost a lot of money, which are those blue ones a bit lower down. So that's my thoughts at right back. Left back, Gabriel Gudmundsson's obviously come in. He'll be first choice to replace Junior Firpo. Sam Byram signed a new contract. He'll be seen as the backup left back. But again, Sam is versatile and is a natural right back, and he's one of our own as well, which helps with the homegrown quota, English player quota, all that happy stuff. So for me, I think we're okay at left back. Centre backs, I like this. I think centre back, we've got good quality of squad depth here. in the shape of Sebastian Bornau, Joe Rodon, Jakob Eol and Pascal Struijk. You've got 4 very sturdy centre-backs, and a fair chunk of money's been spent on them. 5 million for Bornau ain't that much in this day and age. Around 16, 17, 18 for Viol is a bit more like it in terms of being a chunky fee. And obviously Rodon came in for 10 million when we were in the Championship, and Struijk came in for £1 million when he was a kid. So what you've got there though is 4 very sturdy centre backs. They're not going to let a lot past them. They're going to head the ball out at any opportunity. They're going to be strong. They're not going to be muscled around or bullied by opposition attack. And we've got 2 right-sided and 2 left-sided centre-backs in that quartet. So I like the depth there. I think centre-back could be a good position for us this season. Moving on to midfield. Again, I think we've recruited well for midfield as well. I would like another new central midfielder, or maybe an attacking central midfielder. And again, I've had a brief look at the free market, and there's not a lot available really. Not of the right quality and the right experience. So for that, you're going to be looking at, chucking out somewhere between 10 and 20 million, I would say, as a minimum, or a loan, if you can find the right quality of player. But in the meantime, we've got Anton Stack, who's an absolute monster of a unit. I think he'll be a good player. I went to watch Leeds versus Villarreal at Ellen Road, and yeah, Stack looks good. Good range of passing. Like he can do a crossfield ball really well. Good vision. Seems happy enough to take free kicks as well. He whipped in a free kick that was put into a really good area. Right across goal, and Leeds very nearly got something on that. So yeah, very good signing that. I mean, Stack again, he's coming at a similar price to Biol. We've got Sean Longstaff as well, which I think is an important signing. 12 million, possibly rising to 15. 170 Premier League games for Newcastle and about 200 in his professional career. Just got the know-how and the experience at Premier League level. That's what you want, isn't it? That's what you've got to look for when you're building an improved squad to cope with the Premier League. I think we've got him for a decent price there, quite frankly. I wouldn't have paid any more for him, I don't think, just because you need more money for the more flary type players, like when we got Rafinha for 17 mil a few years ago. Like Rafinha now, look at what he's worth. We got him for a snip. But yeah, when you look at it, Longstaff's going to be a good signing. He's going to be good in dressing room as well, isn't he? And he's just going to be able to guide the players that haven't played in the Premier League before. He's going to be able to advise them and tell them what it's like, and just help them. I think it's an intelligent signing. Could be made one of the captains of the club possibly, if Melier goes, because they'll need a second vice captain, and I reckon Longstaff might get given that position. Ethan Ampadu, captain. He ain't going anywhere. He's got that versatility, hasn't he? He's central midfield, centre back, captain of the club. He'll be very important that he stays fit, and it'll be important that he uses the leadership skills that he's got to guide this squad through the season. Important player of the squad, there's no doubt about that for Ampadu. Tanaka, he's just one of those that can do a little bit of everything, isn't he? I think he'll be even more effective in the Premier League than in the Championship. I just think he's got that skill set. Very comfortable on the ball. Very rarely loses possession when in possession of the ball, and can defend, he can attack, he can pass. He's really got a bit of everything. Good engine on him as well. Gets around quite well, and yeah, great signing for the price, wasn't he? Certainly at Championship level, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on in the Premier League. But I think for the money we paid for Tanaka, I think it's been a great buy so far. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Tanaka gets on in the Premier League. Ilya Gruev, there's not been any rumours to say that he's going to leave the club, but I do wonder if Gruev's place in the starting lineup is under threat. Just because, is he going to get ahead of Stack? Is he going to get ahead of Ampadu? I doubt it. And again, he'll want to be playing games so that he gets called up by Bulgaria. I'm not sure what happens with Gruev. He's a reliable player. He's your 7 out of 10 every week kind of player is Gruev. Good defensively, loves a tackle, good pass for the ball, and as I say, just plays that anchorman role in front of the defence very well. Again, bit like Ampadu, you're not going to get anything flashy out of him, but what he brings to the table is a good defensive mind on him, and could take a free kick as well, to be fair to him. So yeah, difficult one with Gruev. I'm not sure. If Leeds needed to make a sale for PSR, I wonder if Gruev would be considered for that, because we only bought him for 5 million. So I don't think it would take a lot for it to boost PSR. But again, it's like, bought him for 5 million. Would we get 5 million for him? I think so, possibly. He's got more experience now that he's played in the English league, and he is a fully fledged international player. But if he's happy to stay and fight for a place in the 11, that's great. I just don't know if he hangs around if he's on the bench all the time. I don't know. This is where I think that the new central midfielder or new attacking central midfielder would come in very useful, to give a different type of player, because I think that Gruev, for me, he's possibly fifth or sixth choice. If you include Aronson in the mix there as well, he's certainly not in the top 2 or 3 in terms of choice, is he? So I don't know. We'll see with Gruev, but it's a tricky one for him, I think. Talking of Aronson, my concern with Aronson is with the club starting to use what looks like a 4-3-3 in possession and a 4-5-1 out of possession. Does this really fit Brendan Aronson? He can play right wing, but he is more of a kind of like do you class him as an advanced 8 or a false 10? He says he's not a natural 10. He's actually come out and said that. Says that he sees himself as more of an 8. I don't think he's tough enough to be an 8. He's not got the build or the physicality to be a natural 8. So you then have to look at his passing ability and things like that, and is that of a natural 8? I don't think that is either. I think I see Aronson as a more attack-minded player. His build suits a more attacking style, built for either the wing or um, in like a 10 role. And I don't know if Farker's going to use the 4-2-3-1 like he used in the Championship. I really don't know if he'll use that for the Premier League. It might leave us too open. So yeah, I'm not too sure with Brendan. He could be another one that the club might make available if someone was to come in for him. But we bought him for about 22 million quid. With that would be more difficult to meet PSR. I would have thought. Because I don't think we get 22 million for Brendan Aronson right now. He had a decent season last season, but we'd probably get maybe 10 or 12. But I don't think we get over 20 for him. Not a chance. As in, not a bad player. He's a decent player in Brendan Aronson, and he's not at his peak year yet. But does he fit the new style that we're going to be trying to play? That's the question. On to the wingers. I mean, it's well documented that we possibly need a new right winger and a new left winger. Not because Dan James, Wilfred Gnonto, Jack Harrison and Elijah Ramazani are not good enough, but just to give that extra quality. This is why we've been looking at what the club have been calling a stretch signing in the likes of Igor Paja, who we didn't get in the end, but that was the kind of ambition that the club was setting out to try and get. Bit of a marquee signing, if you like, but a signing that's got proven pedigree in terms of getting goals and assists from the wing. Now, obviously, we have Manor Solomon on loan last season in the Championship, who got double figures for both G and A. But he's gone back to Spurs and doesn't want to go out on loan again. He wants to try and fight for his place at Spurs. So, with that, and with us not getting Pajau, we've been having a look at Harrison in pre-season. He has actually played the friendlies, apart from the last one where he was injured. But there was about half a dozen players injured for that one, so I wouldn't take too much notice of that really. How has Harrison got on in these friendlies? Not amazing, but if we were able to get the Harrison of old, where he was getting about eight goals and 8 assists in a full Premier League season, which he has achieved before, that'd be a very solid return, and that would be kind of the Jack Harrison that did play very well for Leeds back then. His last 2 seasons have been terrible on loan at Everton. It couldn't have gone much worse. So Harrison's got a lot to prove at this point. Is there still the player of old in there, or has he just stagnated into a very average player? That's the question. That's the question mark, isn't it? Really. In Wilfred Gnonto and Laji Ramazani, you've got 2 very tricky wingers who like to attack, like to get forward, like to really turn on the style and try and get the goals and assists, and they're both still relatively young as well. Neither of those 2 have reached their peak years yet. Jack Harrison and Dan James, on the other hand, those 2 are kind of approaching their peak years now. They're in their mid to late 20s now. So, this is where the likes of Jack Harrison and Dan James would need to come to the fore and really show what they can do. As I say, Harrison has proved it in the past, but hasn't been at that level for the last 2 seasons now. And with Dan James, He's kind of been the opposite. You know, the last 2 seasons he's been excellent. Um, you know, getting lots of G&A over the course of the last 2 seasons in the Championship, and he's still got that pace. And you can't teach pace. Um, so I think Dan James does have a very important role to play if he stays fit. Difficult with Harrison. I don't know what direction the club will go in. You know, are they allowing him to play these friendlies to get him in the shop window so they can sell him, or is he playing these friendlies because he wants to fight for his place and get back in the team? You know, he's got a lot of making up to do if he is to stay and fight. You know, kind of like the Nonto situation from a few years ago, but I think it's even worse for Harrison because he's an older player compared to Nonto. Nonto was a kid who was badly advised by his agent. And then more recently we've had the Matteo Joseph situation of a similar nature, whereas Harrison, you know, was in his mid-20s. He's not a kid, and he made the silly decisions that he did, but you know, he's got the opportunity to, you know, to make a decision at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I'm very keen to see what happens with the winger situation, because again, the likes of Nonto and Ramazani are the good players, and they could cause some problems for opposition fullbacks, I think. Dan James definitely so. Now that he's sorted out figuring out how to score goals and assist goals, yeah, I think like the wings is two positions I'm not overly worried about. So even though I put it on there, the main reason I put it on there about a new right winger and a new left winger is because of the fact that Daniel Farker has said that we need more reinforcements up top, and that includes the wings. And he might, you know, again, Farker might look at getting an ACM as well, quite possible. We're moving on to the strikers. Because of the fact that we're not going to be using Bamford or Joseph this season, I really believe a new striker will be brought in. I think Lucas Nemecha comes in on a free transfer and replaces one of them, and then the other one to be replaced by, you know, a bit of a marquee stretch signing, you know, based on the terminology the club's been using. I think that comes to the fore. I believe we will sign a marquee striker. I just hope it's one that's got some scoring pedigree. You know, to be fair to Nemecha and Pirro, both of them have looked good in pre-season. Can't really criticise either, to be honest. Nemecha, for a big lad, he's very comfortable running with the ball, and he's been at right place at right time to nick a couple of goals, and Joel Pirro's looking fitter, leaner, sharper, definitely up for it. And as we know, Pirro's got a good goal scoring record in the Championship. The question now is, can he convert that into the Premier League, because he never played in it before. So that's going to be the big question regarding Pirro. But for me, we need a new striker who's going to come in and score goals and get plenty of assists. You know, we're crying out for someone who can do the job. And there are strikers out there who have had a very good goal scoring record in their respective divisions last season. I looked at all the ones abroad, and there's one or two good shouts out there. There was a couple of wingers and a couple of tens in the list, but overall I think most of them were strikers, and there were some good strike rates. You know, I looked at the 10. I looked at 10 of the top leagues in Europe outside of the Premier League, and listed a few players, like one from each of these leagues, who had had a very, very good season. That's realistic, within who we can potentially buy. I wasn't putting players that currently play for Barcelona, for example. We're not going to get anyone from there. Not like a primary signing anyway. So hopefully the club are working hard on that. They did try very hard to get Igor Paixão, and by all accounts he would have been happy to come to Leeds had it not been for the fact that he had an opportunity to play Champions League. I believe that's the only reason he's gone to Marseille. Otherwise he comes to Leeds, he'd be a marquee signing. He's got really good stats from playing for Feyenoord in the Eredivisie, and I think that would have been one of like 2 marquee signings that we make. It'd be interesting to see how Nemecha gets on. Hopefully he gets some goals. I think Pirro might surprise a few people. I wasn't overly sure about him when he played for Leeds in the Championship, because all he seemed to do was score goals and didn't do much else. But he seems to have worked on his fitness now, and he's getting about more. He's looking more like a busier striker, which is what we need from him. And as I say, Nemecha's not afraid to run with the ball. He looks very good running with the ball, doesn't Nemecha, to be fair. And he's a big lad. He's strong enough to hold off opposition. He showed that a couple of times against Villarreal, and quite promising. It's just questionable as to whether he'll score enough goals. That's the key with Nemecha. But he's on a free transfer. It's not a big gamble for Leeds, and it does plug up one of the gaps that's going to be caused by either Bamford or Joseph. So we'll see who we get. I do feel that if we get another right back, another CM or ACM, a couple of wingers and a striker, I believe we stay up in 17th. I really do. As long as the signings are quality. I think the signings we've brought in so far are quality. They've got to prove it, but certainly their CV resume looks good. And they've gone for a very physical group of new signings. Players that are going to cope with the physicality of the Premier League, and just add a lot more height to the equation. Like when we're going at set pieces and things, we've got some target men in there now. We only had 1 or 2 before. Now we've got 5 or 6. Then that'll be a lot better, all being well. So that could help. So we'll see what happens. As I say, there's 1 or 2 right backs available on a free. There's only really 1, possibly 2 CM or ACM. And I wasn't really struck on any of the wingers that I saw, or strikers for that matter. So wingers and strikers, we're going to need to spend some money, without a shadow of a doubt. We might get away with it at right back. We're not going to get away with it on the wings or up front, and we're not going to. I doubt we'd get away with it with a CM or an ACM. But again, loans. We can look at loans. If the right quality of player is available on loan, then that could be an option. But again, we're only going to see that towards the end of the window. The season might start by the time players are made available on loan, and that's too late. We need to get them in ASAP. Simple. So there's my take on the current squad and the depth, and the couple of players that I think may leave. But overall, this is what I've got regarding this current squad depth, folks. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think that we need to get players in these positions that I've marked in blue? Do you think the players in green are capable at Premier League level? Only time will tell, of course, but I'm feeling okay. I want to feel good rather than okay. That's the difference regarding the squad depth and the quality of it. So do please give the video a thumb up, like it really does help. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, do please hit that subscribe button. Free to do, massively helpful to the channel. I'll keep churning out all the content. if you can do those two little things for me, that'd be amazing. But in the meantime, I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.